Welcome to Salt and Light Songs, a series where we sit down with musicians to reflect on stories of people who have been salt and light in different vocations. This is just one part of a four-part conversation with singer-songwriter Zan Fiskum. If you're just joining us, check out our Substack for the full story. And if you're back, welcome. Let's jump in.
I love to revisit what you said about like the tension between kind of like worship Zan and singer-songwriter Zan and how you've kind of gotten past that. From my experience in the church, I feel like that tension encapsulates a lot of some of the challenge of being salt and light as a church, because I think there's this like a lot of church is about how to engage in the church. I feel like that's been my experience. But then when you're going out of it, it's kind of like it's instantly to the end goal, which is like save someone or communicate the name of Jesus and invite them to make a decision. Great things, but I think there's a lot of space in that, and I think that space is where there's that tension and where you've been able to navigate, like, okay, there's worship leader Zan and there's singer-songwriter Zan, who sometimes is like, hey, God help me through this, and sometimes it's just sharing your life and your story and your testimony, which is what we know it to be, but not in a way that's Billy Graham evangelism. How did you navigate that? Like, what were some of the, turning points to recognize these are both who I've been called to be, and I don't need to force one on the other or, or choose one over the other?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like a bumpy, like bumps in the road of like getting there, I guess is what I would say. But I love what you're saying though, because I think that there is a lot missing in the Christian life of just like beauty is glorifying to God and excellence is glorifying to God. And I feel like that word gets used a lot in a really specific way for churches, where like refining like a gift that you have been given, whether that's like even something as simple as woodworking, or like refining a gift that you have been given and working hard is glorifying to God. But yeah, I think for me, it's been a big bumpy road of trying to figure out the tension. And I felt so much anxiety over it for years. Like I was afraid I was doing something bad, doing something wrong. And I think a big part of what has helped is I have learned that there's kind of been a pattern in my life that God opens the doors for me. If that makes sense. Like, you can work hard to achieve things, and people do, and I work really hard as well. But for some reason, my life is kind of like I pray and God is the one to like open the doors for me. I don't know if that makes sense. It started when I was in college. I wanted to be a part of a music group that was very hard to get in with. And before I left, somebody was like, the Lord is saying, don't even like reach out, don't talk to them, don't anything, don't audition. He's gonna, open up the opportunity. And that's exactly what happened. They added me without even ever hearing me sing,
Wow.
and put me on stage. And that was kind of like the starting of like, okay, I think this is how God works in my life. And, I like a couple years ago, I just was so exhausted because being a musician is really hard. It's just the reality of it. It's a lot of vulnerability. And so I prayed and was like, Lord, do you want me to be a musician? I'll give it up. And that same day, again, through prophecy, somebody came up and was like, the Lord wanted me to tell you, do not stop. Like, keep going with music. And then all of these miracles started happening within my just normal music career. This is not my worship leading. And so I think that seeing the Lord's blessing on it is a big part of what gave me peace. in just kind of accepting these two different worlds. But the more I've gone along, I think I just identify with what you're talking about, that there's a lot more space between the evangelism and the church circle. There's like a lot more in there that is honoring and pleasing to God and can be devoted to him. So I don't know if that fully answers what you were talking about, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I love that like validation from the Lord that you're, you know, that what you're doing is an act of obedience and he's blessing it. Like that's, and I think that laying down is really huge too. Like some of my biggest influences like Josh Carroll's, and I'm pretty sure Mumford and Sons mentioned this also, maybe not spiritually explicitly, but the idea of like, you know, the whole, we didn't know if we were going to keep going with music, you know, like that crossroads of, or am I going to be okay with not, I think is a really important, really cool, you know, space to enter into. I'd love to hear, you mentioned like the excellence. I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on that. How, you know, would you say that your excellence in your craft is salt and light? And like how, if so, what makes it salt and light?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think that I've had the opportunity to have conversations with people at shows. Sometimes it's funny because I'll share a story and like, again, just kind of in a vague way, people will be like, oh, the universe. You're like, you know, and sometimes it makes me laugh because I think that I'm like, oh yeah, there's like, even if they're not attributing it to the Lord, I think that sometimes when people hear me talk about my life, they recognize that there's something bigger than me that's been at work. And I'm okay with taking the long route, if that makes sense. Like, there's so much that happens in relationship and in like, I don't have to be the person that like if somebody just immediately gets saved. I get to plant a seed. I get to like, you know, do some of the small things. And I think about all the time that like, you know, the loaves and the fish, I'm giving something really small. If you really think about it, like I'm giving something so small. But isn't God able to use that for mighty things? And so I'm just trying to be faithful in my craft and in my music. And I think that it shows up in conversations and comments that I get and with people in my band and at shows. Not my whole, it's, you know, not everybody in my band is even Christians. And I see them wrestle, and we have had long conversations, and there's still things that I'm praying about for them. But I don't know, have faith that God will use, like I said, the small that I'm bringing for something beautiful and powerful for him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I guess the last question I think I have, I'd love to hear, you're going to share a song with us that's kind of tied to the silent story. I'd love to hear what made you choose this song in light of the comic.
Yeah, I chose this song because, like I said, I've battled obsessive compulsive disorder. I didn't know that was what was wrong with me for a long time, because it started when I was really young. And it just, like I said, was a big battle in my life. And as I, again, said before, I was God allowed, I would say, for me to suffer for some seasons. And I don't really understand the timing of God, of when he kind of will jump in and kind of bring some relief and some aid to my life. But that's just been how it has gone. But I wrote this song because the chorus says that I'm just praying that I'm going to be okay. And I've been in that place many times for really extended seasons. And so I just kind of felt like it related to like, sometimes that's just where we're at. And it feels like God is far away and forgotten us. and is not speaking and is not directing and is not guiding. And that's kind of how I felt, in this song when I wrote it. Did my best to represent what those times of life have been like.
That's great. Well, look forward to hearing it.